chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
Hey, good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 20. And this is episode 272, week 16 recap, which means everyone's now starting in the conference tournaments and looking to NCAAs. On screen, Brad Rostrader of UC San Diego, Dan Frand of Lewis, Jay Hosick of George Mason, and Theo Edwards of CSUN. Good day, gentlemen. Looking forward to this week's conversation. We could see where this thing just either gets super hot or just goes tangent. That's the thing with ours. Hot or tangent. So we're going to start off because we have an auto berth already awarded and conference champion winners in non-berth or non-NCAA eligible conferences. So first off, congratulations in the SIAC, Fort Valley State, heading to the dance again, back-to-back tournament champions. That's Fort Valley State University defeated Edward Waters 3-1, and couple familiar names we've been seeing a lot. Isaiah Fed, 16 kills. Tavian Martin, 18 kills, led the way for the Wildcats. And Fort Valley State finished conference play 12-0. Larry Rather named Coach of the Year. Wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the SIAC and the battles that ensued in that conference. Who wants to start off here? Who's feeling it?
I'll take it. I mean, it's congrats to Fort Valley and Larry. It's, we kind of saw them as the favorite going into it, but getting it done is always impressive. And Isaiah Fed's been a really strong player for them the last few years. And I thought it was really impressive with Tavian Martin. It was his best match of the year, was in that championship game there, where he had the 16, 18 kills and hit over 450. So awesome to see him play so well in such a big moment.
Yep.
Yeah, we went down there and played, and I'm not surprised at all. Like, Larry does a great job, and they've got a good group, and Isaiah's a beast. And so, but yeah, I think like having Tavion show up, certainly helped balance them out a little bit for sure. But congrats to that group, and congrats to Larry. And now they wait while everybody else plays. So,
Jay, you got something to say? You got a former guy in that team, don't you?
No, not anymore. He only played 1 year. He played last year for him. But I just, hats off to Larry. I mean, you start a program, you build a program the right way, and this is the fruits of your labor. And like I said last week, he's now becoming the UCLA of the SIAC, and that's pretty cool. So I know Larry and his guys will be prepared, and whoever they get in the play-in match or the first round, whatever it is, he'll be prepared and ready to go. And there's going to be a moment in time. I don't know if this is the year or not, but it'll be a moment in time where the SIAC moves on and continues through the week. And this could be the year. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's been really cool is, just the emergence of the the historically black colleges, the HBCUs, and really just their emergence through men's volleyball. And over the years and kind of where we're at today with it is just incredible. And I think Larry, not only has he done a fantastic job with Fort Valley, but he's been just an absolute champion of our sport and helping build it across the board. And I think back to the inception of those programs and the level of volleyball that was being played and what we're seeing now and how much they've improved. And yeah, kind of what Jay was saying, like this team is no joke, man. And Isaiah Fed and Tavion Martin and Jackson Hicks. I mean, these guys are doing some really, really great things and playing some really, really great volleyball. So congrats to them and excited to see them in the NCAAs.
Yep. Well, just a little side story from last year in Long Beach. I got to spend a lot of time around the events of the national championships, and the hotel I was being held at was where Fort Valley State was saying, but seeing how excited those guys were to be there, I could only imagine how excited the excitement they were feeling going through that whole experience, being at the Pyramid, I mean, near full houses most nights. And, everyone knew that this team was, they had a pretty tough matchup, but they were playing their hearts out. And it was amazing to see what Coach Larry Rather had done with this group of guys. So an exciting time for Fort Valley State and a great moment for the SIAC.
Hey, one of the things that so it's a 9-team tournament. So there is going to be a play-in game for the to have the 8 teams on site. So it'll be interesting. I don't think Fort Valley is going to have to play in. I think what you're going to see, and this is me taking a stab at this, is like they do play in geographically with that a little bit. So it could be the EVA NEC winner that plays. Now, Fort Valley may be the 8th seed, and that winner may be the 7th seed. It all depends on some of the RPI and all that. But I think geographically, there's a good chance you'll see that happen for the play-in game.
Yep, that's what I'm hearing too.
Yep.
Wow. Exciting stuff, nonetheless. Let's go to the ECC. Is this the second year in operation for the East Coast Conference, I believe? St. Thomas Aquinas defeat Roberts Wesleyan as a repeat men's volleyball champs with a 3-0 sweep. They won 3-0, and Gabriel Vieira was named tournament MVP. Unfortunately, that's a non-berth conference, but good to see another volleyball conference over there on the East Coast. What do you guys think?
St. Thomas is a good team. They've got some players that can play. Their opposite is a big, long, lanky kid. He's got a good arm. And they're just, they're scrappy as all get out. I know that Theo saw them early in the year when he came out and played us, and he watched the match, and afterwards we were chatting a little bit, and he goes, man, those guys scrap hard. And it was just, they're a lot of fun to watch. Balls don't hit the ground very easily, and that's a fun team to play, especially if your team also is scrappy, which Northridge is, and I'd like to think that we are to some degree, but that's a team that's well deserving of the title. And I believe next year, do they get their AQ? I believe
that was my question for you guys as a follow-up. Do we know? Is that
year?
I don't, but I can at least look at it for you guys. I don't know if they've sustained enough teams.
They've got 4 in their conference
right now, right?
Right. So you have to have 6 for the amount of time. That was like the NEC was trying to get a waiver, if you remember, because they had gone down to 5. And so I don't think they're in a position yet to do that bid. So you may see the GLBC get it before them if they don't get a couple teams. And I think they do have a team or two coming on board. That would be the question, I think. So,
yeah.
Right.
I mean, pretty impressive performance, hitting over 500 in the conference championship match, whether it's 4 teams or 14 teams. That's an impressive showing. And I think another fun thing with St. Thomas Aquinas, I tuned in a couple of their home matches, and that gym looks like a serious home court advantage. I think it was NJIT was out there when St. Thomas Aquinas upset NJIT, and that place, I'm sure it gets ruckus and loud and has a good vibe to it. Serving space seems a little limited, so kind of definitely could have some interesting niches and opportunities to take advantage of. But congrats to St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yep. Anything else on ECC or any of the teams in there? All right.
We play them next year. Did one of you guys play them this year? Is that what you said, Jay?
Did.
Yeah, we both played St. Thomas.
All right. Well, I think I'm playing them next year at Penn State. So all right. Here we go.
They're a good team.
Yeah.
Well, our final conference, and I think we actually may have to make some corrections on the team that was mentioned from last week. The IVA championship happened, and Lincoln Memorial defeat Maryville for its 7th straight IVA championship, 3-1. A lot of big names that performed well. John Negron, 15 kills, hitting 371. Lures named all-tournament team and MVP, tallied a career-high 50 assists. Griffin Wheatley and Negron had an ace each, while defensively, Gentry led in blocks, 4 block assists. Tate Kolba led the team with digs, 14. LMU hit 359 for the match. Thoughts on LMU, the Rail Splitters?
It's a no-brainer. Everybody thought they'd be the ones that would walk out of there, and they did. And it's a good team. Somebody ought to pick them up, or the IVA should start their own conference. They should do something, because that team is really solid, and they'd be a lot of fun to see against some of the boys in the big dance.
Well, congrats to those guys. And one thing is Maryville needs to figure out if they're going to be the runners of the IVA, that Maryville shouldn't get 3 all-tournament people and your winner gets 1. And I'm going to call that out. Like, that's just wrong. Like, Lincoln Memorial should have had 3. They got the MVP, but they should have had 3 as well. Any of our conference tournaments are ran like that. It's like, maybe you'll get a guy from a team that doesn't make it all the way, but usually the 2 finals teams, one has 2, one has 3. And I think they should have got that right. And so shout out to that group. I know Gentry and trained him on the beach. He's a phenomenal player, and an II should be an All-American. So we'll see how that committee votes that down. And they've got some pieces between Negron and Lures running the show. And it was first time Lures got to run it a little bit. But one of the things to give some background, because I know you guys talked about them a little bit. So Lincoln Memorial has been trying to get into conferences. They put a bid in for the MIVA. They were talking to the EVA. Like, they've tried. There's been, ultimately there was some dialogue between the MIVA and administrators and coaches and didn't quite work out. I don't know the dialogue between the EVA. So it's not by lack of effort by John Cash, who was Brian's predecessor, and them trying to work on it because they want to be in a conference. They want to get to the dance. And so they've been trying to do that stuff. And so I think ultimately they'll continue to do that. But I wanted to make sure that people kind of knew that they were trying to work at that and wanted to be a part of that. And I actually think teams are scared to play them. I'm going to tell you that. Like, their schedule is the way it is because teams don't want to put themselves out there and say, hey, let's go play them. And so I think there's got to be some other teams that like, hey, I'm okay with playing them and putting them on my schedule. Because if you're looking at the RPI and where their RPI is in the top 20 and all that, they're a great RPI school for programs to play and compete against. And so I think that'd be really good. But again, shout out to Brian and his group. I thought they were great.
Yeah. Anything else to add, gentlemen, on the
I think the most impressive thing for Lincoln Memorial is John Lures and their setters, Matt Gentry and Eliel Torres. Like, I think that I haven't looked at it, but I want to say around when we were playing them, they were both leading the nation in hitting percentage as middle blockers. And I'd be willing to bet they're still probably pretty high up there. But just an impressive connection to see. Normally we see one middle who's really holding it down, but to see both middles hitting at such an effective rate is pretty impressive job by both middles and the setter.
Gentry's hitting 528 on the year on 343 swings, 221 kills.
How many kills per game is that in front of you?
Yeah, hold on.
Thanks to the internet. We love it.
No, I actually don't have kills per game.
I thought it was at like 2 point something. If you guys remember a few years back, Mitchum was like at 3. So if you're a middle and your kills are in the 2, like 2.4, that's super impressive. So
2.59.
Yeah, like that's super impressive. So I hope the All-American group recognizes him. I think he's well deserved. So
yeah, good call there. Just wanted to add and maybe pump Brad up a little bit there. Only loss for LMU was against the Tritons of UC San Diego. So solid team, because we know Brad's doing some good stuff down in La Jolla. I think the Southern California Sunshine doing wonders for his team as well as Brad. So Lincoln Memorial, actually, so the last conferences we mentioned, slim hopes to none of getting at large bids. That's a quote from a resource that I've been reading regularly. So, but that's why we're talking about if they can get into a conference, particularly LMU. A lot of final weeks of conference play. We've got results, news, and we're going to start with the NEC. The NEC Championship has been established April 25th, 26th, will be hosted by St. Francis. And the number 1 seed, St. Francis, Mike Rummy's swan song in coaching. Three-peat as conference champions, and will face FDU. Thoughts on St. Francis taking the NEC, gentlemen?
It would be a great last hurrah. I know next year is their last year's Division One. We don't know if any of the kids are going to enter the portal or not this year from that team, and not give Rummy a fantastic last year, so to speak. But I think they're the favorites. I think they're a team to be reckoned with. Deerdorf is a really good outside hitter for them. And this is his last year. And so I know he's going to go out swinging, and, Rummy's been there for so long. It'd be nice to see him get a chance to go and add one to his list. So,
yeah. Anyone else on St. Francis?
Yeah, St. Francis, a couple guys. Andrew Deerdorf is playing really high level right now. He had those 2 matches. He had almost 450. He had 449. So pretty impressive. And then also Brady Stumps, a player who's doing a lot of good things on the court for Rummy and St. Francis. So it'll be cool to see that tournament though, because then it's interesting. They play for hosting the tournament, and then I think most of us would assume they'll end up playing on Saturday for the conference championship. Obviously Damon's going to try to sneak in there, and all the other teams will as well. But interesting playing 3 times within the span of 8 days.
Yeah.
They correct me if I'm not mistaken, but they had an opposite that got hurt at the beginning of the year, right?
Nathan Zini.
Yeah.
Zini he was a stud. He was good. So I compliment to Rummy and his staff and the players stepping up and losing a key piece like that and making a run and winning the regular season. But if they do hold and they win it, that's what I was talking about. It might be them and the EVA champ in the first round, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I think they're
ahead.
definitely the favorites. That LAU match though was closer than the numbers make it look. They had leads late in a lot of those sets and kind of let it get away from them a little bit. But St. Francis, I thought, did a good job, fended it off and finished strong. I think as just a Rummy friend and fan, I'm pulling for them. I hope they make a run this year.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that last year, Rummy came to UC Irvine and got to chat with him and a couple of players, and such a humble guy and a great group of guys. And Nathan Zini was on the court, and I'm telling you, that guy created a lot of problems. And big dude with a big swing, but Deerdorf was also a solid contributor last year, and obviously he had to carry a lot of the load without Zini this year.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we also need to mention that Long Island received the number 2 seed. And they'll be facing the 3 seed Damon in that NEC tournament. So Damon coming off a great season last season, no surprise there in the postseason in the NEC tournament. So, but Long Island, after the turmoil, we mentioned it in a couple episodes ago, they didn't even have a coach coming into the season. So it's good for them to finish. I believe they only had 3 losses in conference play, but had a pretty decent regular season as well. So hats off to Long Island, going through the tribulations and making the tournament. We're going to see some good battles in the NEC. So anything else, gentlemen? Now we move on.
Shout out to a couple guys that used to play for me. They're at Long Island, Isaac Binka and Chase Chelikowski. They've been in and out of the lineup doing some nice things. So
look at that. The connections is Dan is everywhere. He's worldwide. New company, Dan Fran Prestige Worldwide. It's the Chicago chapter. So
right.
Let's go to the Conference Carolinas. Tournament's going to be hosted by King University in Bristol, Tennessee. The number 1 seed is 20th ranked Mount Olive, who were idle this last week. So in the Conference Carolinas Championship, they'll be facing the 4 seed North Greenville in the semis Friday, the 25th. Then Belmont Abbey, the number 2 seed, faces Barton, and the final will be played on the 26th. Any thoughts on any of that information I just threw out there for you guys?
I think
is it King because it was predetermined, or is that because of the winner last year?
What's that? I missed the first part.
You said it was a King, right?
Yeah.
Is that predetermined? Does anybody know, or is that because I was just curious?
I just went off the release and it didn't give any history as to why they were selected. So
it probably was because Belmont Abbey won it last year.
That's what I thought. I don't like that, honestly. Like, I get why the Big West goes to Hawaii because people just love volleyball. You know what I mean? So no matter who the seed is, and like, so you're
outrigger kicks down some dough.
It's more the money than anything else.
I get it, but like in the Conference Carolinas, Mount Olive wins it. Why aren't they hosting it? Like, they're going to pack the house. They get to play in their home gym. Why would 4 schools go play at King and not get very many fans that are going to, I don't know. I just not quite sure I follow the logic, but my money's on Mount Olive. Go Mount Olive.
Yeah, it's going to be Mount Olive and Belmont Abbey in the final, and I think Mount Olive's got it this year. They're just loaded top to bottom. They're a good team.
Again, I got a transfer there. Tate, he came from Lewis. I got people all over.
Mr. Worldwide strikes again. I think Mount Olive's having like a dream season.
I don't know if that says anything about the kids that you're training or the fact that you can't keep them. I don't know what it means.
Oh, stab, baby, stab. I'm sure there's a guy at Mason too and a guy at Northridge probably. I don't know. So I'm trying to make all you guys better.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, actually, Mount Olive does have one of the stories of the year, and that was your boy Tate Sandvig, who's gone through chemo.
Yeah.
So I've been following him since you mentioned that. He made second team all conference this year. So the conference teams are announced, like, obviously trying to find all these releases, but that's such a great testament of how, strong an individual he is. And shout out to you, Tate. You're my inspirational story of the year right now. So good stuff. With that, we're going to let the coaches take over because this is their home conferences. EIVA, Jay. He has better insight than I would. He's probably followed more closely than anyone else here on the screen. So jump in it. Jay, tell us what happened. What caught your eye?
Well, a couple things caught my eye. One is Princeton locked up the hosting of the EIVA championships this week up in New Jersey with a win on Friday night versus Penn State. It was a really fun match to watch if you got a chance. And obviously the second night, I think he put in all of his backups and Penn State handled it, but I don't think it was really of much concern. Princeton had locked it in and there was going to be no change. So hats off to Sam and his crew. That's a really, really nice job. And I know we're all excited to get back up there. There was a couple of shifts going on. NJIT at one point was in last place in the conference, and with 2 wins against Harvard, moved up into second place and get a first round bye, knocking Penn State out of the second place spot. And so NJIT will get a first round bye as well. So right now, Penn State's at number 3. We are at number 4. Charleston's at number 5, and Harvard is at number 6. And you're going to see Penn State take on Harvard, which they split their earlier season series. So that will be hotly contested. And we play Charleston again. And that'll be what Brad had talked about. We're playing a team 3 times in 6 days or something like that. And we won both matches this weekend against them in 3-0 and 3-1. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a fun week, and it's a relatively short travel for us. It's about a 3.5 hour drive, so it's not terrible. But the thing about the EIVA this year is everybody is kind of beating anybody, and so nobody went unscathed. And Princeton, I think, is the team to beat this year. They're really solid top to bottom, but they're not perfect, and you just never know what can happen on any given night. So it'll be fun to watch for sure.
Jay, Is this the first time Penn State doesn't have a bye and is playing on the opening weekend in EIVA history?
I will be honest with you. The only other time that I can think that happened was in 2018. But I believe that was when we were still at 4 teams. So they played in the first round and lost to Harvard. And then obviously we played Princeton. We hosted that year. We played Princeton and we had beaten them both times earlier in the year. And unfortunately they got us on that night. So it was the night that the finals of Princeton and Harvard won that year. So I think it's the first time in program history that they're playing a play-in game and not in a first round bye since it went to 6. And that was only a handful of years ago. So
what's the days on the tournament?
So we play Wednesday, and then that's the quarterfinals. The semifinals will be on Thursday. Then we have a break on Friday, give everybody a day of rest, and then Saturday will be the finals, the Super Saturday.
Yeah. One of the results that did catch my eye was a Princeton-Penn State match, and there are some different names on the court for the Tigers. Didn't see Omene on there, but instead we saw Andrew Werner, Jameson Vaccaro, and Nolan Kelly.
Well, Nolan Kelly has been the backup setter to Henry Wedbush all year, and Omene, I think you saw some teams around the country when they maybe have solidified a spot in the playoffs already, rest some of their starters, and Omene is probably getting a rest for that night because he's got a big week coming up. And you want players with experience, and the only way you get experience is by playing. And so when you've already locked it up, why not give the other kids a shot to play and have some fun?
Yeah, good call.
Well, congrats to Sam and the Princeton group for winning regular season. I think people maybe looked at them at the beginning when they played the tough schedule and weren't winning some games, and I thought they put together a great conference slate and really did some work. And good luck to the rest of the teams. Jay, when's the EVA all conference stuff come out? Is that next day or two?
It will come out tomorrow. We just got done with our meeting, and tomorrow is when the press release will go out.
Well, awesome. Congrats. If you had you guys, congrats. I know you can't tell me. You know what I mean? So
I know nothing.
Yeah.
Perhaps a Frenchman could be on the team.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. What's been impressive to me is watching Princeton come through some of the struggles that they had early in the year to really just turn it around and have a really great conference run, and obviously taking first, being able to even rest some people towards the back half of the year, which is always a nice thing to be able to do. And I was also looking at Penn State too, right? The Penn State was 3-11 or 3-8, I think, in their first 11 matches. And there was a lot of question marks, a lot of things being thrown around, and they've won 6 out of their last 8. So they've been able to put together a string of wins and obviously get themselves off the bottom of the EVA, not necessarily in the top 2, but poised themselves to be a little bit of a dark horse in this race, which is really cool to see. Nice to see some parity, but I think the EIVA is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm expecting some chaos up in New Jersey.
Well, it's funny that NJIT and Danny Goncalves' team, they just kind of hover around in the right place come postseason. So it's like you can't take your eye off them as you get closer to conference play because they're getting better throughout. So it's not that we're not mentioning Jay because he's not doing his job, but Jay's team's always in the mix too. So he's got some good young talent, some transfers in, and it's fun seeing is it Gio Colazzo, the transfer from Long Island, come in and really step up and do some good stuff for you.
Yeah, one of the things I talked to my staff about, there were 3 matches this year where we were up in the first set, fair amount, 24-21, 24-20, couldn't close it out, and then won the next 2 sets. And those 3 matches are NJIT the first time we saw them, and both Penn State matches. Had we won those matches, like the quote unquote, if you would have won the first the way you're supposed to, we would be in second place. And so it is what it is. You got to live and learn, and hopefully you get better along the year. And, like I said, anybody can beat anybody this year in our conference. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, it's a perfect transition. Anyone beating anybody. That brings us to the MIVA, which has been just pure mayhem this year. So I'm gonna let Dan take over because he's got a deep insight into that conference, right, Dan?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, I do. Well, the odd thing is there were no upsets. Like all the seeds held.
Everyone who should have won.
Yeah, everybody won one. So
well, if you look at the preseason poll, though, it kind of was an upset.
Yeah, but we don't look at that anymore. That's preseason, buddy. Anyway, Loyola took care of business at home, against Queens. McKendree was playing Purdue-Fort Wayne for the 3rd time in 7 days, and they took care of business. You saw Lindenwood, which I thought was going to happen, battle with Ohio State. They took a game. They were in a position to take another game. But Ohio State, I think are playing some of their best volleyball late in the stretch, and we're able to put it away. And then you saw us in Ball State, and why wouldn't we go 5? We love going 5, and it was back and forth. Nobody could figure out how to play on the one side. There was very lopsided games. One side was really good, and the other side wasn't. And you get to the 5th game, I was like, Tyler comes back and he goes, "Hey, coach, should I have taken the other side?" I go, "No, we want to start on the bad side and then get to the good side when we finish." I don't know. It worked out for us. But I don't know, a lot of big swings by some players. Ball State's got that trio, and all 3 were playing between Rajay, Patrick, and T. And I thought we were able to do some nice things at the net. We got a couple of our own big guys swinging at the ball. And so there was a lot of out-of-system attacking going on for sure.
Yeah.
I thought the most surprising thing was that nothing surprising happened. Like that might be the first time ever in MIVA history there was no upsets.
Yeah. Our libero, Nico, he passed the best passing match I'd seen him do. He was like a 2-5 for us, which was fantastic, which really kind of
he was pretty great against us too, Dan. So there's that.
Yeah. Thanks. So
yeah, I agree with Dan. The thing for me, I think we all knew that Loyola was going to handle Queens. That was probably the most lopsided match of the 4. Ohio State seems to be getting better as the year goes on. I think the next round, though, might prove to be a little bit much for them. We'll see if they can pull it out. McKendree is just going to be an absolute handful for anybody moving forward. And I don't know who is the next rounds, Dan. Who is McKendree?
McKendree and Ohio State. Ohio State goes there.
Yeah,
Battle of Chicago.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to those. The thing for me with Lewis and Ball State, first of all, I love how there's a good side and a bad side indoors. The wind, apparently the wind is blowing
It's the
through one
sun.
way and it just makes
Wind,
it so.
elevation, like sun. I don't know what's going on. I have no. And we
But,
even practice. We practice on that other side more than we normally do. I don't know.
Yeah, his player Guzman just, I mean, the kid's just unstoppable. He's got a cannon for an arm. The thing is so heavy, and if he has a good night in the next round against Loyola, you're going to see two of the best opposites getting after it after each other, and that's just going to be so much fun to watch. So good luck to Dan and his crew, and I think Ball State started out the year really hot and then kind of fizzled out there. There were some injuries and some new players kind of got in, but they never really seemed to find their rhythm again after about midway through the season. And that's kind of a bummer because Donan came in his first year and did some great things. And then this year, the sophomore slump, if you will, but the Ball State will be right back in the mix next year, I'm sure. And they'll be a good team to play. But yeah, the next round in the MIVA, bloodbath.
Be a great t-shirt.
I think this all came down in just talking about Dan's match, the battle of the trios, man. And I think with Lewis, when Haber is out there and he's passing well, this team is pretty tough to beat. I mean, between Haber, Roquette, and OG, those are three big dudes, man, who can hit the ball and put a ton of pressure. And just seeing how this match went down, it just seemed to me like Lewis had the better three. Just saying.
Is Roquette, is he in that chorus line in New York with all the other ladies and doing the leg kicks? That Roquette?
He's the French one. Rocky.
Rocky.
That Menlo.
Sorry.
Rocky. Man, your match was a roller coaster. Just like really none of the sets were close. And even the fifth set got away from it a little bit. It was 7-7 and then
it's the side, Brad. That's what he's talking. It's the side.
Yeah. And it was, but I was like excited to go back and watch it. I was like, this game wasn't, I'm sure it was exciting there, but like I was like, man, you kind of know what team's gonna win each set pretty early on. And then that fifth set though, you had that big block against Raji, and I think that was kind of really what sealed it. And you saw Ball State kind of see like, oh, this is gonna be really tough for us to come back from this deficit when I think it got to 12-9 or so. But yeah, it was an interesting match for sure. It was unique watching it. It was just like, oh, up and down, and your trio was better for the trio of sets that you needed,
Nice.
Well, the Lewis Flyers have a new airline. That's the Turkish Airlines and OG, because he has been so solid. I mean, I think he's been solid since the beginning of the season, but I really feel like he kicked it up 2-3 levels since the midway point because he's been getting some really strong numbers. I mean, curious what he's hitting and his kill production towards the end.
Well, he's hitting somewhere around 350 and almost 4 kills per set. I think it's not right in front of me right now, but yeah, like
he's hitting 350, 349 to be exact.
Wait, this just in, Dan's sending him somewhere else next year as well. He's losing him to another team. So
George Mason, here you go, buddy. Well, it's funny. We make jokes. I go, OG, where are you going next year? I just want to know so I can.
Well, we touched a little bit on Ohio State and McKendree, but I want to talk about Ohio State because the Buckeyes have been on the rise. They've been doing this very slowly through the season because they too, at the first point, that second weekend in January, and everyone's like, ooh, they upset UCLA, but where is Ohio State going to fall in the MIVA? And here they are playing super strong towards the end of the season. Shane Wetzel leading the way this last weekend against Linden with 16 kills, hitting 345, and Stanislaw Hachinsky, 11 kills. But those are the two names you've been seeing quite a bit of on the Buckeye roster.
Well, you should also talk about their setter, Daniel Henwood. The kid's putting up some good numbers.
Freshman setter at that too.
True freshman, and is definitely going to be somebody that Ohio State can, rest their hats on, so to speak, for the next few years. The kid's legit good.
Yeah. And then on the other side, McKendree, two big names you keep seeing, Shuley and Zadakis. Expect them not to go down without a solid fight. And setter, another good setter, Nathan Flater. who's had a great season. So,
Yeah.
yeah, bloodbath is definitely the right term for what we can see this weekend. So, anything else to add to the MIVA, gentlemen? All right, that brings us to the MPSF, and this is going to be a group effort here. 3 pretty major series we were watching. That was Grand Canyon, Stanford, BYU, Pepperdine, UCLA, USC. Let's talk about Grand Canyon, Stanford first. Grand Canyon having to go the distance in some serious punch-for-punch battles against the Cardinal. 3-2 victories by the Lopes. Thoughts on Grand Canyon and or Stanford?
I mean, Grand Canyon finding ways to get it done in the 5th set, and they've obviously played a pretty darn tough schedule. I'd argue probably one of the 3 toughest in the nation. And really Trent Mosier and Jared Anderson getting the job done for them and making it happen. And Mosier hit on the weekend, had almost 30 kills, 29 kills on 58 attempts, and Jared Anderson 20 kills on 43 attempts. But in the big moments, those are the guys who are getting the job done for the Lopes.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because beginning of the season, head coach is Matt Worley, and then made the early change. And I was thinking that's going to create such a disruption. But your former assistant, John Girton, and the name of the other assistant, the co-assistant, co-head, I guess now, taking the helm, that has to create some kind of disruption in their system. But it didn't seem to.
No, I
No,
mean,
it-
they're
the
so
others just-
cohesive, and like Brian is who
Yeah.
also was taken over as the co-head coach, and Matt. They were all so close. They were really close as a staff. Thought volleyball very similarly. So, yeah, outside looking in, obviously, but I think internally, not a lot changes other than there's just one less person in the gym and around for a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the challenge for Grand Canyon this year was the setter switch and then the setter switch back. I think that has been probably their biggest up and down parts of the year. And yeah, I think Worley leaving when he did, that obviously caused a little disruption, but Brian and John know what they're doing, and the kids know, hey, it's not any fault of their own. It's just, Matt had to do what's right by his family, and this unfortunately just had to be the way that it went down. But Grand Canyon's one of those teams that they've got all the right pieces. They've got the players. They've got a coaching staff that knows what they're doing. They know how to train. They know how to, scout. All those things are true, but it's just, can they put it all together at the right moments when it counts most? And this is a good test. I mean, going to Stanford and playing and beating them up there, that's not easy to do. And so going into this week, it's going to be some good momentum, and you never know, Grand Canyon could upset somebody.
Yeah. Well, I just pulled up the KPI rankings after this last weekend. Grand Canyon, I did not realize they're right there at 7, right behind USC and Loyola, Irvine, UCLA, Hawaii, and Long Beach at 1.
Yep.
So testament to what Grand Canyon's doing. They've been kind of doing it under the radar.
Yep.
Anything else on Grand Canyon, Stanford?
No, just compliment the Grand Canyon again. I think 2 tough wins in 5. Like it's impressive, and certainly had implications in the seeding, as we'll probably talk about the MPSF tournament and everything. So
yeah. BYU Pepperdine next. Sweep of the series by number 8 BYU over Pepperdine. I thought Pepperdine would have grabbed at least one of those, but I'll let you guys chime in on that one.
It's BYU at home. They're much better at home than they are on the road. And
darn elevation.
No elevation.
Or the sun. It's something. It's the elements.
Why? How dare you? How dare you, Dan? Listen, BYU at home is good. And BYU on the road, another story. We'll see what happens this week. Where's the playoffs going to be for MPSF?
Malibu. Tough circumstances.
I hope BYU, I don't know who they got in the first round, but I think
they get the winners of Stanford and Menlo.
Menlo, with the onshore winds blowing into the gym, changing the direction of the ball.
That's right. It's going to be super, super warm too. It's going to be like 70.
Anything else out of BYU Pepperdine?
BYU hit over 430 on both nights. Their pins, especially Luke Benson and Mix Romanis, really held it down on the pin for them. So So yeah, and Pepperdine just kind of never really looked fully in rhythm. Kind of always fighting against. I'd imagine there was a lot of emotion and a lot going on for BYU senior night and senior weekend really for that.
Yeah.
So that probably helped keep that momentum pushing for BYU to get a huge 2 wins for their seeding going into the MPSF tournament.
Yeah. Dan, did you have something to add in there?
Yeah, we talked about, ultimately Grand Canyon beating Stanford twice, and then BYU gets 2 wins. And not surprised about taking care of business home. I thought Pep would get one of them. I thought they'd split it. So it makes who's hosting the conference tournament?
Pepperdine.
Pep.
Yeah. I think that works in their favor for sure. So playing at home, but yeah, congrats to BYU.
And throw a little shout out throwback to Kevin Barnett, Peeper Dine.
That's the great call right there, Pepper Dine. Hey, I just wanted to shout out. It was senior weekend at BYU, but one of the players has been such a workhorse and a great ambassador to that program, Mix Romanis, who closes it out his career at Provo, 18 kills with a 483 hitting percentage and 21.5 points. But just a solid individual. Always get a chance to chat with him after he visits at Irvine, and just a good person. And I like it when good people do good things. County them also had a very emotional social media piece I thought was really cool that BYU put out. So, he loves playing the game, and it's you can see it in the way that he plays. So with that, let's move on to the final series in the MPSF we wanted to talk about, and that is UCLA USC. Went down to a barn burner in Westwood, 3-2 UCLA. They bounce on to the 10 freeway south, taking 3 hours, which is only a 10-minute drive away without traffic. 3-0 sweep by the Trojans. Thoughts on that series and implications here come tournament time. So who wants to jump in? Ooh, Frozen.
I think this is a pretty exciting series between these two teams, and I think one of the things that's made it really interesting too is just the battle through injury that both these teams have kind of been dealing with Ido David and Jack. I want to make sure I get his last name correct. Rob, how do we pronounce
Duker?
Duker.
I got a lot of not hate mail, but people like, hey, can you tell all the people on social who are calling by the other name?
Fellas, we were saying Dusher a little too much. It is spelled that way, but it is Duker. And so sorry, sorry, Jack. Sorry for the
You're adding to the Hawaiian hate of yourself, Theo, because he's
Listen,
Hawaiian. People
like
like Outrigger
no
aren't gonna
shooting.
There's a whole thread hating on Theo, I think now. Isn't there? It's great. I always used to think Jay was the one that had a whole thread on him. Now you got Theo.
Well, listen, you gotta give the fans a little bit of love because they're passionate about their teams. I personally got an email from a Hawaii fan telling me that it's not pronounced aunties, it's pronounced aunties. Like that was the purpose of the email. And granted, it wasn't mean spirited. He was not trying to tell me that I'm a complete a-hole for mispronouncing anything. But listen, you listen to any good announcer in any sport at any given time, and there's a lot of them that mispronounce names or mispronounce certain things all the time. It's part of the fun. It's part of the deal. We're all good. We're all human. We all make mistakes. It's all good. But I will never forgive ketchup on a hot dog. That I will never.
Tito's got a whole hate mail going on ketchup and hot dogs in Chicago style. So he's just hiding.
Well, I have a whole side chat of about 100 people that have emailed me their hot dog safe space that they love their ketchup on their hot dog and they do not like Portillo's. And we are holding meetings every Sunday morning to discuss how we like to eat our hot dogs and the freedom to do so outside of Chicago.
I love it. I love it. I'll be eating my Tommy burger next time. I'll join in.
But anyways, back to USC, UCLA and the Battle of LA. Yeah,
Pink's is right down the way from USC. Just I gotta mention that.
What is?
Pink's hot dogs.
Pink's hot dogs.
Well, so's Tommy burger, but who's counting?
But the injuries that these teams have been dealing with, right? And the sidelining of Ito and obviously of Duker as well. And these teams trying to figure out the fit of what those teams look like without those guys. And starting to see USC find their rhythm again. Duker back in the mix and and them starting to find that rhythm with Caleb Blanchett and SC I thought looked really great on night 2, and the offense was humming, and they really took it to UCLA. But I think UCLA is also showing their depth. They're showing that they can do it in different ways, and but I think Ito is a big part of it. And I think when Ito's been at his best, this team has been really, really tough to beat. And when he's not in the mix and he's not grooving, it changes things quite a bit. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they look in the MPSF tournament and who's healthy and who's able to play their best. I think these guys get the longest break of all the MPSF teams. So
yeah, I thought night 1 was the story of, you had Rama and Robinson just continuing to just be monsters offensively, and I think they were just a little bit too much over the course of that 5-set battle. And then night 2, just Dylan Klein was the best player on the court. He was impressive in all aspects, and then I thought Duker's serve especially created a lot of chaos, and we saw Rama and Kirchi, the libero for UCLA, really struggled passing and serve receive. And offensively, UCLA really struggled getting their middles going all weekend, really, over the course of both those matches. So definitely some areas for upgrade and some pieces that I'm sure UCLA and USC both are working towards tweaking as they gear up for what will be an exciting MPSF tournament.
Yeah. Well, Duker was in the zone on night 2 at Galen. 8 kills, 0 errors, hit .615, and fired off 3 aces, 2 block assists, total of 12 points. So, and Caleb Blanchett, who has been kind of the unsung hero of the Trojans. Even Johnny Dykstra has been getting more love than Blanchett. But 29 assists, but look at his options. He's been dealing with injuries. We know Dylan Klein was not in the starting lineup a few weeks ago, just nursing some injuries. But Dylan Klein, and congrats to Dylan, enters the 1,000 kill club last week for the Trojans. But that guy is a warrior. He is, he's playing through injuries just like a lot of athletes do. But he's been so flexible, going from the left and playing oppo, and then Duker comes back to the left. Nygaard's just been trying to tweak it to get those few points, those important points to get those wins. So USC comes in as the number 2 seed to the MPSF tournament, while UCLA still claims the number 1. Do we have anything else to add on the USC-UCLA series?
No, it makes that committee job getting tougher. You get all these splits and people that are in the mix. These conference tournaments, values of those games become super important. Every round is really important for teams to make it a little bit farther.
Yep. All right, that brings us to the Big West, where 3 of the 6 teams are represented. I didn't know what order to do this in, but I'm just going to go with what I thought was one of the great stories, just because I have a little personal connection to one of the athletes on it. But we'll start with UC San Diego, Long Beach State. We'll let Brad chime in on that one.
Yeah, we hosted Long Beach State on Friday, and for the first time ever in UC San Diego men's volleyball history, we sold out our arena. So about 3,800 people were in the arena for senior night and to watch us get to take on Long Beach. And it was just an awesome atmosphere, great environment. We ended up having some opportunities in set 1 to really take the set, and ultimately Skylar Vargas serving in set 1.
Oh no, the bandwidth not working out in UC San Diego. Did we lose them?
I was going to ask him, what was their marketing ploy for selling out the venue? Were they handing out free burritos and margaritas to everybody that came through? That's a great sellout for them. That's awesome.
Well, I think we're going to have to get Brad back in here. No one, I guess they didn't want to hear about Long Beach State quite yet. Well, he was saying the sold out crowd is an amazing setting. I think it's over 3,700. I know that's not the 10,300 that's in Hawaii or the 5,000 the Pyramid, but still, Lion Tree Arena looked phenomenal. It was a great setting. The crowd was into it. I hadn't seen, they were doing the stinking wave. Hey, what venue do people do the waves in volleyball? I haven't seen it at any of them. But it was a big weekend for Brad. Unfortunately, Long Beach State came out on fire. At least I feel like they did not hold
there
back.
He is. He's back.
Hey.
Zoom just crashed on me. That was weird.
Well, once you finish, I was trying to mention the sold out crowd, how Long Beach State playing. It seemed like they're on a mission because they were, you played well as a team against them, but they turned it on in a big kind of way.
No, they were on fire. Yeah, like in first ball, they hit over 500. In transition, they hit over 400. And we tried anything and everything we could to slow them down. And they were all playing great. And especially Nato Dickinson came out. Their opposite was out. Not too sure what's up with him and hoping he's okay, Daniil. But yeah, Nato Dickinson came in and looked like he'd been their starting opposite all season long. He played awesome. So yeah, they didn't skip a beat.
All right. All right. This is time for the panel to jump in on the UCSD or UC San Diego Long Beach State Series.
Yeah, Nato Dickinson that's an interesting one because he's an older guy who has not had a lot of playing time over the course of his career, but he is one talented athlete. And I think it's less of a look at what kind of volleyball player he is and more of how great Long Beach has been, that they've been able to keep a guy like that on the bench. But I thought Nato on the right was a big deal for them. I thought he played incredibly well, and I think this Long Beach team looked like they're ready for playoffs. Pretty impressive to see them bring a new guy into the lineup, and Varga's playing at an absolute elite level right now. Like he's been damn good all year, and we've mentioned his name quite a bit, but he is an absolute glue piece for that team and has helped fill the role of Siapanis in my eyes, in terms of his ability to keep him in system and just be an absolute force at the net.
Long Beach has a kid named Siapanis that plays for them. I haven't heard that name in a long time. I think kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's been a while, man. But Nikolov and NATO's connection, like some of those back sets, whew, man, Nikolov was looking pretty crisp and pretty clean, and the service pressure is just at an elite level. So,
do we know if Sotiris is coming back?
Nobody knows.
No idea.
Crickets.
Yeah. Well, he's on the bench, and he's just in sweats though. But I think his mentality is, I'm here to support my team, whatever role they want me in, which is a great attitude to have.
Yeah, and at this point, if he does come back, is he in game ready shape? Meaning, is he, in rhythm and all these things? And listen, the kid's a phenomenal player. I have no doubt that he would do well. I just wonder if he would be at his absolute best, and at that point, having not played as many matches as he has. And at this point, Long Beach is firing on all cylinders, so just reload the gun.
Yeah.
The two outsides against Brad, so Varga and Kandev both passed a 2.45 on the 4-point scale. So
I'm glad you mentioned
they hit 467 and 560. So how does Siapanis add? I don't know.
Brad, were you serving underhand serves over there? What's going on?
He's frozen again.
I thought he was giving me a deadpan look.
I was like, wow.
I thought he was just ignoring you, Jay.
Hey, NATO's great. Like, I got to coach NATO on the beach the past couple of years, and awesome that he's got an opportunity to come out there and showcase what has the ability to do, because I think he's a phenomenal young man and a good volleyball player. And so, on a side note, though, all of us could get kills off Moni.
Yeah, he was a setter. He was a setter back in the day. He's played a lot
Nato
of
was a setter coming out of high school.
Yeah,
a setter with a wicked arm, and
he's played middle. He's played setter. And he's played opposite. I mean, kid can do it all.
Utility knife, great beach player.
A lot of tools for sure. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Kandev though, because he is a true freshman, and he stepped right into Shapani's role without missing a beat. And I actually think he's, from a hitting percentage standpoint, I got to verify it, but I think he was hitting better than Shapani's was when he was playing. So, and he's big. When everyone on Long Beach is big in size, you can't tell who's actually like super tall, but he's like 6'8", a 6'8" outside, and he's like extremely built, strong arm, and confident in passing too. So,
what country is he from?
Starts with a B, ends with an A. I'll just say that. Let's go to our next matchup and hope that Brad somehow didn't get his line cut somewhere. But that's the CSUN UC Irvine series. I'll let Theo take this one.
Sure. Yeah, some tough battles for us this weekend, and specifically, so we started at Irvine on Thursday, and they were fantastic. I think you guys had some sort of referendum coming up or some voting, and so had a big student athlete presence in Irvine, and they did a fantastic job with the crowd. But obviously, senior night, and there was some great energy in that gym, and I thought right out of the gate, they put a ton of pressure on us. Maxime Grigorev just did a fantastic job serving and kind of opened up a big lead in set one. And you know, for lack of a better word, like we just did not have a lot of answers for them. And they beat us, probably one of our worst losses on the year, just in terms of how much they controlled the match and controlled the atmosphere. And you know, I was really happy to see Heno's senior night, because scheming against that guy, I would love to not have to do that anymore. He is really great. And
But you're going to, if we really look down the line here.
Yep, I know. But no, but he's just such a fantastic player, and just brings so much to the game, and what he's done for Irvine, but what he's done for men's volleyball as a whole has just been awesome. So honestly, just being able to be there on his senior night and get to see him kind of celebrate that was pretty darn cool. Even though they beat us pretty good. We turned around back on Saturday and had one hell of a match here in Northridge. I think they won the first, we won the second and third, they won the fourth, and it was a deuce in the fifth, and really could have gone either way. I think we had the lead at 8-7 and had an 11-9 lead at one point, and Heno just had some phenomenal big attacks out of the back row that we struggled to get in front of, and Irvine ended up pulling it off. But it was one heck of a battle, and I thought our team got a hell of a lot better over the course of the weekend, which was nice to see.
My question is, because I saw the scores from that match. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but you know, the first night, I mean, those scores, that's like January volleyball scores. I was really surprised with the level that Northridge has been playing in recent weeks, or months for that matter, that they did not even get out of the teens in any of those sets.
What's impressive, Jay, is that we didn't play that bad. Like looking back at the video, Irvine was incredible. Like they were as close to perfect as I've seen them play all year, in a lot of ways. And we made some mistakes, like, don't get me wrong, but we made them earn a lot of it, and earn it they did. It was a pretty impressive showing out of that group.
That's the answer for that one. But obviously the second night, you know, I mean, Hilaire had 26 kills. The next highest is 8 kills from Nolan Flexen. Is that the next highest kills from
Flexen didn't go into the third set.
And Flexen didn't go into the third set. You know, I'm gonna repeat this joke because it seems to make sense. The halftime basketball coach at halftime coaching against Wilt Chamberlain in his 100-point game. The coach looked at his team and he goes, "Hey, who's got Wilt?" Like at some point you're like, "Hey, see that guy over there? We know he's getting the ball. It's the man drill. Somebody please slow this guy down." And he's that good that you just can't. I mean, it's unbelievable how good that guy is. And there's going to be a 2-person race this year for player of the year in my eyes. And it's between him and Moni. And those are the two that I think stand out the most. I wonder if it's going to depend upon how far Irvine goes in the tournament. If it gets to a point where they're both in the finals against each other, you could argue either one of them to be player of the year, and somebody somewhere is going to argue for that. I mean, it's ridiculous how good they are. You might see a co-player of the year.
Wow.
Bob, you had mentioned that he didn't come until the third. Actually, Flexen started.
Oh, did he start that night?
Yeah, he started. I mean, they started the same lineup.
And they pulled him.
Yeah, he was struggling passing, and so he got pulled at some point, and then he ended up coming in at opposite because Darcy was struggling. So they made. I mean, Dave did a fantastic job. Made some great subs, and at one point they were running a 6-2 and just trying to show us some different looks, and ended up pulling it off.
Yeah. Dan, were you gonna say something there?
No, again, Heno, I'll be curious to see if, like Jay said, they do Big West Co-Player of the Year between Heno and him, or how that kind of shakes out a little bit, let alone AVCA Player of the Year. So, but yeah, kudo to, I mean, 2 20 kill nights. And then Theo's group gave them everything they could handle the second night. So, but I'm an exciting Big West tournament coming up here pretty soon, which will be fun to watch these teams battle it out for sure every single round. So, but guys, I got to jump off. I'm going to give my 2 players of the weeks. Isaiah Fed from Fort Valley State, and then John Lewis MVP for Lincoln Memorial. So those are going to be my 2. So 2 fantastic players doing great things for their team. So, but good luck to everybody.
Yeah. And we
I
hope
might
no
have
one
a
leaves
Chicago
Lewis
style dog
University
this week as I head downtown to Loyola just to let Theo know. I don't know. I'll see where I'm at.
There,
All
go
right,
get
Dan,
him, man.
good luck.
Good luck.
All right,
luck.
good luck, guys.
Battle of Chicago Part 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually got to jump off too. So I'm gonna throw my 2 players of the week as well.
Is that how it has to be? I got to jump off early to get my 2 players in.
Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But I'm gonna keep it in the Big West. Skylar Varga, 550 in their wins this week, and then Jess Bianchi, that win over Hawaii. And I know you guys are probably going to go into it after I leave, but that win over Hawaii made some huge changes, some big swings in the standings for the Big West, and essentially pushed us into 6th and heading up against Irvine. So that was a huge match by Jess Bianchi and a big win for Santa Barbara over Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you offline at one point because I had to ask you about the tiebreaker. Achilles Montoya texted me. He's like, that tiebreaker stunk, but I wanted to.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting is we had gone through the bylaws and we're looking at it prior to the match and just kind of looking at what are all possibilities, right? And how can this thing shake out? And we thought we had figured out that either way, nothing was going to change. But the part that we had miscalculated was you go at the sets and the set percentage wins out of the 3 teams. But then after you separate San Diego, who was in first in that situation, then it goes back to head to head.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so, because we had done the math looking at set percentage and just thought it went 1, 2, 3 from there. But yeah, it's quite interesting. But I think it played out the way it should. And the reality is in the Big West, I mean, all these teams are tough, and I don't know that you want to necessarily play any of them in the first round, but no matter what, you got a lot of work to do to get to the finals. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it.
It's just a different color uniform in the first round. That's all.
That's exactly right. Well, and for us, it's the same scouting report we just ran for the last week. So we got to make a couple of tweaks and we're going at it again. So I think it should be a fun one.
All right, Dale. Well, thanks for explaining that. I was like wondering what that meant, but thank you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Good luck to you. Well, not
right,
good
guys.
luck to you this week. That's against my guys. So I hope you play well.
Hey, you already said it, Rob. Can't take it back. See you,
All
Brad.
right, we'll see you
out there.
Hawaii,
Yeah,
CJ.
good luck.
So now that he's off the screen, I'm going to talk trash about CSUN. No.
Finally.
Just wanted to add that, Theo's doing a great job with that group of guys, and seeing the way they responded on the court, right there in person, it's a great dynamic he's got going on. And that second night at Northridge, he unfortunately lost Shane Nem, a converted oppo to middle, sprained his ankle, and Theo was able to still tweak that and actually put up a huge fight. Nem, if you're following the stats from Thursday night, was error-free on attacks. He was hitting, north of 500, and Irvine couldn't stop him. So that was a big loss for Theo on night 2. But the highlight, and this is where I feel bad now that Theo's gone. Irvine ran this play to Heno, and whoever was blocking on the opposite side for CSUN, it's like, oh, Heno's coming in at the outside. They set Heno a burn set in the middle, no block, straight down the middle, 10-foot line, bounces it. And I was in shock because that thing bounced so high into the video board in back of the Bren. So highlight of the weekend for it. Well, one of 2. So, but the Big West tournament, that's going to be a brawl because UC Irvine ends up playing Theo's Matadors again in the first round. So easy scouting report for Irvine and Northridge. Now, can they execute the game plan? That's what it's going to come down to. So last match, Santa Barbara, the 18th ranked Gauchos against the 4th ranked Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Thoughts on that matchup? We'll start with Jay because it's been a while since
Well,
jumped in.
first of all, you're going to get hate mail from Hawaii fans because they're ranked number 3 according to your paper.
It's been shifting back and forth, and I've got tons
Oh
of numbers.
man, they're going to hammer you. I know it. Listen, again, Santa Barbara goes as Jesse Bianchi goes. It's been that way all year long, and that kid is the Iron Man of all Iron Men. He just gets set nearly every ball. There's a few players around the country that are at this level of attack. Obviously, Hilaire is one of them. But Jesse Bianchi he gets nearly every ball, and they're still successful. I mean, he hit 450 for Christ's sakes in that match. And Hawaii is not a bad blocking team. They're actually really strong. So Jesse's finding the edges. He's doing good things. And, if he's rested, which I think he'd need about 3 weeks to rest right now after all the swings he's been taking. But if he's rested and they're going to Hawaii, I wouldn't want to face him in the first round. I mean, that kid's going to go off.
Brad.
Yeah, that kid's going to go off. And it's going to be that match will be a battle of 2 great opposites as well. And it's going to, it's going to be a bloodbath out there.
Well, the scary part is we got to prepare for Jess Bianchi and Walmer, who they played Saturday and beat Hawaii in 3, obviously. And then they've been going most of the year with Cole Schobel setting and George Bruning as their opposite as well. So we got to prepare for 2 really good setters and 2 really good opposites. It'll be Rick's got a tough decision to figure out who's going to be playing for him there. And we got a tough report of figuring out how we're going to stop both of them and slow them both down.
Surprised they're not running a 6-2 at some point briefly.
They might.
You just gave Rick some ideas. Brad's thanking you for that one, Jay.
Rick has forgotten more volleyball than I will ever learn. He's been around the game quite a long time and has worked for quite a few heavy hitters. He's probably thought about it a few times already. Tell me they knew.
Well, you bring on that an interesting point, Brad, because was it Friday night's loss or Thursday? They played Thursday. Thursday night's loss. Bruning had 19 kills and ace, 21.5 points against Santa Barbara. Against Hawaii. Night 2, he switches it up. I'm thinking those are great numbers. Why would you pull Bruning? But it was senior night, and he brings on Jess Bianchi and Walmer, and obviously he goes off. So great choices for Rick and options that he has. But what I wanted to bring up is spoke to Jess when he was down at Irvine and asked him, how things are going. He'd been dealing with some injuries, and that's why he didn't get the starting nod. Just, George was better. And he was still getting off of injury, and he's like, yeah, I'm excited for the season, but I felt like it could have gone better because I wasn't healthy, so forth. So seeing that match the way it transpired on Saturday night, it was fitting that he had the numbers that he had. It was a great way to end his last match at UCSB in the Thunderdome. 21 kills, hitting 450, and the walk-off ace for the upset, which was, posted the video on a few social accounts, but you can tell he was dialed in that night.
Well, we don't know. I don't know the injury, but I know what he didn't have injury-wise, and that's a broken left arm.
Well, he strengthened up after last year because he's, as the All-American honorable mention, he was getting a ton of sets last year because Rick had a bunch of injuries last year as well.
Yep.
So anything else to add, Brad?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, all the conferences now officially into the tournament championships or the conference championships. So I didn't know where to go next on this. So let's go with your players of the week. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to think about where we're going to go from here.
Okay. Brad, go ahead and go since you're probably going to steal mine anyways.
I'm going out to your region, but I don't think I'm going to steal yours. I got Andrew Deerdorf, 20 plus kills both nights. Has had a great season. I would think might be, if not the runaway favorite for NEC Player of the Year. Congrats to him and his performance there. And then I gotta go Dan's guy, OG.
God dang it. Dang it.
Continues to do a great job. 23 kills in their win against Ball State.
Yeah.
All right,
Jay.
Geez Louise. I'm going to go Omeni with Princeton. He's just the kid never ceases to fail to amaze everybody that watches him play. He's a high flyer. He's got a good arm. And, Princeton's the favorite going into this weekend, or this week, actually. And, if Omeni has a good night on any of those nights, it's going to be a rough go for anybody that has to face him. But yeah, that's my choice. I only picked one because you're only supposed to pick one, right, Rob? Only one?
I'm creative, I don't want to limit your creativity. So if you have a few of them, please do.
Yeah, no, I that's going to be my choice for this week. I think he's well deserving of it.
Yeah. I'm going to chime in on one. It's going to seem like I'm a homer, but the fact of the matter is he put up 2 solid performances. One in the clutch in a do or die situation. That'd be Hilaire Heno. He was on fire this week, and
you're contractually obligated to mention your guy. We all know it. Come on, pick somebody new, Rob.
All right, here's my new one. Since his name's been mispronounced so many times, and he had been performing so strongly in the beginning of the year and was slowed by injuries mid-season, but to come back, turn it on, Jack Duker of USC. So
good call.
I would have done Dylan Klein with 1,000 Kill Club, but I already gave him props a few weeks ago, so I got to hit Duker up this week.
There you go.
So,
good call.
From there, though, I was torn between your guys' take versus your guys' takes on the conference tournaments or hot mic. I'll let you guys decide because I'm 50-50 on both.
Well, I'm going to hot mic mine.
Okay.
I am hearing rumblings that the judge of the NCAA roster limits had a return email or letter or phone call from the NCAA's lawyers. And the 2 topics of conversation that the judge wanted to have changed, one was the 10-year moratorium on being able to negotiate more money. And the other one was the phasing in, phasing out, grandfathering, if you will, of roster limits and people that are already on rosters. I was really encouraged by all that, and I thought the judge was going to do the right thing. Apparently, the lawyers for the NCAA came back and said, we're not discussing roster limits. We're not phasing in anybody or phasing out anybody. So we're right back where we started. I'm just appalled that cannot be fixed. And a lot of coaches around the country had a little bit of hope there. And saw a light at the end of the tunnel and thought there'd be some good things, but apparently the judge is not pushing it, and the NCAA lawyers got their way. And I'm just a message to you lawyers, the ones that came back and didn't push for this. Screw you. That just sucks. That sucks for all of us that have to do that stuff. We should have you guys be the one that have to have these conversations, because it just absolutely sucks that any coach in the country has to make these decisions because you guys couldn't figure it out. So shame on you.
Wow. Strong words. And I'm going to clip that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Put that on social.
Clip it and send it to those lawyers. Shame on you.
All right, Brad. Hard to follow up that one, but
yeah,
hot
I had
mic or their
so
take.
trivial in comparison that I'm just going to let it sit and leave that hot mic right there.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys sticking it out here. The other guys had to drop off and do more important things, but we know where their hearts are at. Jay Hossack, George Mason, Brad Rostrader of UC San Diego, and parting early were Dan Friend of Lewis and Theo Edwards of CSUN. I'm sure 2 of the 4 having to head to Hawaii from the West Coast. Got to leave early this week. So good luck to everyone on the panel, and I appreciate all your contributions this entire season. It's not the last one. It's just we're coming into a big couple weeks here. So, gentlemen, best of luck to you this week.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.